Come on in, sit back and relax. You're listening to episode 196 of the WealthTech Today podcast. I'm your host, Craig Iskowitz, founder of Ezra Group Consulting. And this podcast features interviews, news, and analysis all about the trends and best practices in wealth management technology. And my guest for this episode is Sindhu Joseph from CogniCor. Now, this episode is a deep dive on AI technology. And who better to talk about the difference between chatbots, machine learning, and ChatGPT than someone with an actual PhD in artificial intelligence and, oh, by the way, 6 patents. So Sindhu originally founded CogniCor Technologies in Spain in 2013. And while she was running the company there, she won the European Union's inaugural award for the most innovative tech company, impressive, and even gave a speech at the European Parliament. She then relaunched CogniCor in the US in 2018, and you'll get to hear all about what they're up to in just a few minutes. But before we get started, I have a message for executives at broker-dealers, RIAs, family offices, or TAMPs. Your tech debt is holding back your business growth. Your old software platform is rusty and falling apart. I can hear the rust falling off your systems right now, and you need either a complete overhaul or to be replaced entirely. Your disparate systems don't communicate with each other, and it's driving your ops staff and advisors crazy with manual processes and errors. If that describes your systems, you should run, not walk, to our website, EzraGroupLLC.com, and fill out the Contact Us form on the homepage. Our experienced team can evaluate your current tech stack and ecosystem, deliver targeted recommendations, optimize your existing platforms and operations, or run an RFP and help you implement some new software to take your firm to the next level. You can take advantage of our free consultations by going to EzraGroupLLC.com. I have a message for you if you are the executive at a broker-dealer, enterprise RIA, family office, or a TAMP. Your tech debt is holding you back. Your old software platforms are rusty and falling apart, and they need a complete overhaul or to be replaced entirely. Your disparate systems don't communicate with each other, and it's driving your ops staff and advisors crazy with manual processes and other errors. If this describes your company and your tech infrastructure, you should run, not walk, to our website, EzraGroupLLC.com, and fill out the Contact Us form on the homepage. Our experienced team can evaluate your technology ecosystem, deliver targeted recommendations, optimize your existing systems and operations, or run an RFP RFI and help you implement new software to help take your firm to the next level. And a few quick housekeeping notes before we continue. We at Ezra Group support a number of nonprofit organizations that do fantastic work for a variety of causes. One you should check out is the Invest in Others Foundation, which you can learn more about at investinothers.org. Please subscribe to this show wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode. And now, let's kick this thing off. Founder and CEO of CogniCor, Sindhu Joseph. Sindhu, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Craig. Excited to be here.
I'm so glad you could find some time for us. I know you are extraordinarily busy, and you are traveling right now. Can you tell us, where are you calling in from?
I'm right now calling in from India. I'm actually visiting my team and spending some time with them.
And where in India are you?
I'm in the south part of India, which is called Kerala. It's a pretty nice place with a lot of, backwaters and greenery. It's very relaxing place.
I wish I was there. I'm here working, so I'm jealous. Well, you're doing combination work vacation?
I wish it was that, but it's mostly work and hopefully a little bit of vacation.
Well, I hope you do get some in, but I really appreciate you taking the time, because I know it's 12 hours later, so it's 2 o'clock in the morning where you are now. So thank you so much for being up. But can you please share with us a 30-second elevator pitch for CogniCor?
Sure. So CogniCor is an AI assistant platform purpose-built for the wealth industry. It's purpose-built for the financial advisors. So financial advisors spend a lot of time in routine operational tasks, and CogniCor AI assistant is here to kind of take over all of those routine tasks and guide them through the decision-making process so that they can really focus on the customer engagement and expanding their portfolios. That's really what CogniCor's focus is.
I saw an early version of one of your products at the Pershing Insight Conference, I believe in 2019, summer 2019. And that was a chatbot where Pershing has a proof of concept that could go in and say, as an advisor, just chat with it and say, my client lost their debit card. How do I get them a new one? And it would go bring up the right form, fill out all the client's information for the advisors. All they have to do is fill in the last bits and hit print and get it signed and go. That was so cool. What were one of the reasons why you founded CogniCor? What gaps did you see in the market back then?
So if you look at, let's say, traditional, other industries like e-commerce or travel, like, if you want to buy something from Amazon, it's in a few clicks, you have that product on your doorstep within a couple of hours. Similarly, if you want to hire an Uber, it's like, again, a couple of clicks and the experience is very, very seamless and instantaneous, personalized, ubiquitous. So that is what we are used to as a consumer. But when it comes to wealth, which is so fundamental to our own existence, everything breaks down. The experience breaks down, the efficiencies breaks down. So if imagine like anytime you want to kind of take a distribution from your 401k, or even like, change a simple thing as a beneficiary for your retirement account, I have no clue how to do that. So I think traditionally the wealth industry has been not focusing on the experience aspect of it as a, for an investor or for, other stakeholders like advisors. And behind the scenes, behind these broken experiences, there are a lot of efficiency gaps because there are a lot of manual processes that's been happening. So, so this is where we believe that, AI and automation can fundamentally change that equation. So I believe I approach AI from the point of view of how can we augment human efficiencies at scale. So that is really the role of AI that I see. And I have been spending a lot of time working with AI technologies much before the large language models, the foundational technologies has been a hype. So a couple of decades of experience in building AI solutions. So so this is where I see that, the industry can really utilize AI solutions in terms of both creating an experience shift and building efficiencies. So it's not just a nice to have, it is really a must have at this moment because as we all know, like, there is a huge wealth transfer that is happening from an older generation, baby boomers to millennials, and they are used to this Amazon, Uber kind of experience. And if they don't see that same experience with the wealth industry, like, they are going to demand that experience. So it is a historic opportunity for all of us in the industry to kind of revolutionize both this experience and efficiency. That's really where the it really came from. And I believe by doing this experience shift and making it seamless, there are a lot of we are actually democratizing the access to wealth. There are a lot more people who can really work with the industry and create wealth for them. So that's really the goal of CogniCor and why I was really inspired to do this.
One interesting thing you said was augmenting human experience at scale. I like the idea of augmentation because there are some fears around the AI replacing humans, but I see it as just pushing people higher up the value chain. That as technology is always going to start automating manual tasks. It's never going to stop, from the cotton gin to the assembly line to the telephone, right? That automates things. So it's never going to end. It's just going to keep pushing humans up, and you're constantly looking for more value. So let's talk about some use cases that you find very popular. Oh, before that, let's talk about the difference between different types of AI. So I mentioned earlier the chat bot. then there's machine learning, then there's natural language processing, then generative AI. Can you just do a quick 30 seconds on those and differences between them so people understand what's one versus the other?
Yeah, so in general, AI is basically trying to create intelligence and create tasks that are, normally need human intelligence to execute, and we are trying to kind of automate those using AI. So the one of the fundamental building blocks of that is understanding human language, or how we are able to communicate with humans. So this is where the chatbots come in, where we can actually talk to a machine in natural language and communicate those instructions, what we want to get things done, and how we can use AI to do that. So initial set of chatbots were just a number of scripts that you would execute. So you would painfully articulate what you want to get done with every single instruction, and you would train the algorithms to kind of understand that particular instruction in different various ways of asking those. So that were the initial set of chatbots. It had many ways of building it. A certain number of different technologies in machine learning, like different algorithms that were used in machine learning, was part of this kind of a chatbot building process. So, or any kind of statistical processing was used. So that was the initial set of chatbots. We then went into augmenting this technology with deep learning algorithms, which was much more effective in terms of understanding the nuances in human communication or human natural language. So it performed better because we could train and make the machine understand the human language better. Still, the rest of the workflows, or how we want to get the task automated, was again scripted. In addition, the dialogue was also scripted. So if you want to get any dialogue between the machine and the humans, you had to basically define each step in the process. So that's really where the large language models came in. One of the fundamental difference between all of the previous machine learning models and the large language models is when the large language models are come pre-trained, which means that you don't really have to sit and painfully train how we interact with machines or what are the nuances in human language. It's already trained, come trained. So this removes one of the fundamental flows in AI deployment, which is training. So AI deployment always came with a lot of training time, and large language models to a certain extent remove that training time, and it was able to understand most of the nuances in human communication. So that's that was the large language model based chatbots, or assistants that was created. However, there is still certain things that was missing, which was kind of the context around every communication. So humans communicate with certain context based on the domain that we are working on. So when I say about retirement accounts, we inherently know that maybe we are talking about a wealth management domain. So this kind of a context understanding is still missing in large language models, but technologies like knowledge graphs and reasoning can really bring in this kind of context. So those are AI assistants that have these kind of context built in with the chatbot as well.
There's been a lot of talk about large language models recently, and one podcast I was listening to there was a prediction that every private company of a certain size will have their own private LLM, and it'll become table stakes within 3 or 4 years because of the capabilities and the advantage it gives you if you can basically analyze every document, every email, every PDF, every promotional material, every research report inside your company walls. Then that would provide every employee with a tremendous resource. Do you think that's true? And if so, how would they go about doing that?
I think so. Maybe the not every large organization would have their own fine-tuned model, but what I believe is foundational models, as I said, comes pre-trained with certain amount of data already, which means it understands pretty much every domain to certain extent. The vertical solution providers would kind of provide that fine-tuned layer for each vertical. So, for example, a wealth solution provider would train it for the wealth domain. For somebody who's really focusing on manufacturing domain would provide that fine-tuned layer, which understands the nuances within that particular industry, and provide that. So that is a fine-tuned foundational model. Within every enterprise, you can customize it by feeding in the documents, the standard operating procedures, the data that is within that particular company, and you can make it your own. So that is what enterprises will be doing. So once you have these models, you can actually use it in a way that is just working on your kind of data. So I think enterprises are not really trained to kind of do those customizations, but specialized industry providers would be doing that from pretty much from outside. That is what I would think in the next few years, and that's where kind of the value you can extract.
I downloaded an LLM off of GitHub distribution that you can run on my MacBook Pro to basically gather all my own data, all my documents, all my emails. So do you think people will have their own private LLMs as well?
It is having their own private language models is, I would say it's fancy. It is not inconceivable, but the problem with where you would stop doing that is because there are no great frameworks available for fine-tuning these large language models. So how do you kind of make sure the accuracy is 80% or 90%? There is no models that really tells you what the accuracy of for a particular domain or a particular use case, or like if it's your own use case, like how do you test that? So I think there is a lot of infrastructure that needs to be built around these language models before it's really usable, widely available for this kind of use.
Let me just take a quick break from this interview to talk about the Invest in Others charitable foundation. I'm fortunate enough to be participating in this charitable organization, and they give me the honor of every year helping to judge some of the charities that are going to be awarded money. And you can get money for your charity if you are a financial advisor or an advisory firm. And you can also participate in a program that Invest in Others is running called the Charitable Champions. This recognizes financial advisory firms that give back to their communities. Let me just read a little bit. This is on their website, investinothers.org. The Charitable Champions recognizes financial advisory firms that give back to their communities by promoting a culture of philanthropy amongst their financial advisors and staff. You can submit your firm name to the organization. The application is already open. The deadline is July 7th, and the winners will be announced August 16th. Submissions will be evaluated blindly by a panel of advisors based on criteria including leadership and culture, events and activities, incentives, contributions, and impact. Now, I'm not a judge on this. I judge usually advisor charities, and it's very difficult to do that kind of judging because they give us 10 charities with 10 advisors, and we have to decide which advisor gave the most back to their charity and helped them the most. It's really tough, but all the money is going to a great cause. So please go to investinothers.org, and if you are running a financial advisory firm, sign up for the Charitable Champions list. I would agree. I just think the infrastructure is being built so quickly. The tools are moving so fast. It reminds me of the internet in the early 90s or mid 90s, where things were being, HTML spec was being modified every week. A new version would come out. Oh, now I can do this. Now I can put an image on my website. This is great. So now we're seeing that the same thing with AI, that we've got all these new features and functionality coming out all the time. Let's talk specifically about use cases. So CogniCor has a number of very interesting use cases for AI. I know one of them is onboarding. Can you give us a little bit about suitability and client onboarding, how AI can help scale that?
Yeah, so our vision, or in a conceptual level, what we are trying to do is, so there is a lot of manual operations that operational workflows that advisors go through on a daily basis. So imagine you have your Alexa or your Google Assistant at home, and you can simply tell your Alexa switch on my kitchen light, and it does that. But you haven't really programmed Alexa to understand that particular or execute that particular skill. So that skill is downloaded to your Alexa, and somebody around the world has really built that skill. So that is really what we want kind of CogniCor and its ecosystem to kind of build for the wealth industry. So if I want to change my beneficiary, I can simply say change beneficiary, or as an advisor, I can say change beneficiary for my client Alex, and it just goes and collects the right form, execute the operational approval flows, and then pushes every data to the custodian, gets the status update. So that is so that entire packaging is what we are really envisioning. Imagine every single client servicing activities are managed through that. Then the entire industry becomes standardized as a result. So as an RIA, you don't have to really figure out how these operations are handled within within your organization. It just becomes part of the standard workflow, and you can really focus on the client engagement and your expansion of the AUM. So that's what in a very high level what CogniCor is looking at. Some of the top use cases that we have been working on is as you said, onboarding. Client onboarding is a great use case for this purpose, because in the process of doing that, collecting data, and so there is a huge large form that normally needs to be filled, but in this case you can really go through a process of AI enabled data collection, which really looks at what is your profile, what is your net worth. Can we provide you some similar kind of situations where maybe a similar profile has taken certain decisions, and understand your risk profile by asking certain questions that is generated by AI. So through this interactive process, we collect your data about risk profile, your investments, your assets, and so on. And once we collect all of these data, we again push that to the CRM and also to the custodial platforms for both for onboarding purposes and opening an account as well. So that is one of the workflows that we handle. There is another use case which is around client review meetings that the advisor go through again on a daily basis. So we basically handle that entire end-to-end process where you can, get reminded as for an advisor that, this client is up for review, and we schedule the meetings automatically, prepare the agendas, and then, also capture meeting notes to extract action items from there and map them to cases to drive certain workflows from there. So that end-to-end experience is built using CogniCor. So these are, some of the exciting workflows for RIAs that we have seen, capturing their key pain points in a exciting way and creating efficiencies and experience shift for advisors.
Sindhu, can you share a little bit with the audience? What is your background in your training in the AI space?
So I have been working in the AI sector for almost a couple of decades now, and the background story is that I was really excited about human intelligence. I was fascinated by how we make decisions and how we understand and think through a decision-making process. And when I heard about, there is a field called artificial intelligence, I was really fascinated by it because I realized that by trying to experiment and trying to build this kind of artificial intelligence, we can actually understand our own nature of intelligence, how do we make decisions and so on. So my interest in AI came from that point of view, how natural systems behave the way they do, and how we can have a deeper connection, deeper understanding to that. So I did a PhD in and spent a lot of time working on building these kind of intelligent, autonomously, decision-making systems. And I used a theory called the theory of coherence, which is a cognitive theory, and we humans use that to make decisions. And I made a computational model of that for AI systems to make decisions. So that's my background in terms of the AI world. And using this expertise, I have spent a lot of time working with natural language processing, because I believe if artificial systems are able to understand human language, that is kind of a holy grail of AI, because once it understands and is able to communicate with humans, it can really execute tasks that humans command. So combining these two things, the autonomous decision making and understanding humans, was some of the areas that I was really focused on. So after my PhD, and I spent also co-authored number of patents and inventions in machine learning and natural language processing. So I realized that there is a lot of potential for AI in these kind of application domains, and I was fascinated by the use of AI and how we can create this kind of platforms to support efficiency and experience shift, and that's why CogniCor was created.
That is a fantastic story. I wanted to get that out there and let everyone know you have a PhD in artificial intelligence. You know what you're talking about, right? And many years of experience in this space. We do a lot of research in this area, and there's a lot of research that's been done. And clearly, every industry is rushing headlong into AI, and of course at different speeds. And I've seen surveys that show, in terms of the biggest wealth management firms across the board, 80% are either deploying or scaling client or advisor facing AI powered technology. Do you think these firms are moving too fast? Should they slow down? What's your recommendation?
I think the Chat GPT and OpenAI has kind of created a hype, a lot of hype, not just in the wealth industry, but throughout the rest of the industries as well, in terms of adopting AI technologies. However, the AI platforms, AI solutions has been there before, although the mainstream has not been, fascinated by it, I would say, to a certain extent. So in terms of adoption, I believe there are certain use cases that are really, really mature for adopting. So I'm not, for example, in the wealth industry, I'm not talking about building an AI advisor per se that would, look at your client household, the portfolio performance, and then recommend, turn out automated recommendations for that. I'm not talking about those kinds of use cases. I think they are pretty far-fetched even today. But there are the use cases that are mature in the industry are again augmenting human efficiencies. How can we delegate certain administrative routine tasks that would enable humans to perform better, humans to take better decisions. And those are the use cases that is really matured. The platform companies have been working on it for quite some time. So I think in terms of adoption, a couple of things that large firms as well as the RIS needs to be aware of. One is understand, because there are a lot of firms out there, everybody offers AI. So you need to understand, how do you differentiate between a provider with certain strong capabilities versus somebody just using an API and providing some service. So this differentiation is key, because someone who is providing all of the infrastructure to fine-tune, deploy, and expand these use cases will be needed as you deploy and roll out AI use cases. So those kinds of infrastructure is you have to check whether these capabilities are there available. So that is one checkpoint that companies have to do in terms of either they are bringing in external vendors, or internally if they are developing as well, they need to look at that. The second is there are a lot of people who are directly using ChatGPT. So while it is a fantastic tool, if you are calling ChatGPT with your customer data or your own information, unfortunately that information is used to will be used to train ChatGPT's next generation, which means that your data will become a permanent part of the its training, its model. So you would never want to do that as in the capacity of somebody who is handling customer data. So you should look at models that can work in a closed space where your customer data, your data is isolated and it is not used to retrain those models. So you should look at those kind of open models versus the closed models. So that's the other differentiation that you should be really focusing on. And third is, of course, the use cases. As I was saying, some use cases are really matured and some use cases are not. So if you kind of start where your pain points meet those use cases that are matured, I think you are in a perfect place to roll out this kind of AI solutions.
Sindhu, we're kind of running out of time here. We've covered a lot of ground. Before I go, I wanted to ask, what are some items on the roadmap of CogniCor? What can we expect to see in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, so as I was saying, our vision is to create this standardization in the industry and create that experience shift, just like how you are calling an Uber or how you are buying an item from Amazon, like that kind of a very seamless experience, if we can create within the wealth industry, that is really our end goal in terms of, that AI assistant doing that for you with a very seamless front-end conversational interface and behind the scenes automating and stitching together different systems. So that is really what CogniCor is focusing on. So once we have these, basic infrastructure pieces, for example, in our own use case as like, the meeting assistant, we are actually automating certain like routine activities like scheduling, preparing the agenda, capturing meeting notes and converting them into action items. So that becomes just a base for us. And imagine now the possibilities are endless through that that dumb pipe that we have created. For example, like, we can analyze the context of the household. Let's say there is a kid in the household, 5 years old, no 529 plan. So suddenly the AI can start to kind of create these next best actions. That becomes part of the agenda. And it is in front of the advisor as they are going to meet with the client. They can propose this that, we noticed that, there is no 529 plan for your son who's 5 years old. Maybe it's time to, put that in place. So likewise, we can look at portfolio performance. We can, suggest these actions, and a lot of these analytics becomes part of this enriching that, that basic infrastructure piece. So I think that's where the value is, so that, the advisor becomes a very powerful decision maker who's really understanding the context of the investor client and providing really value added advice to the clients.
Sindhu, you've said it all. I'm really looking forward to seeing some of those capabilities coming from your roadmap. Very excited for what's coming for advisors, broker dealers, asset managers, other wealth managers in the space with this kind of technology. Where can people listening find more information about your firm?
Of course, our website is a pretty good starting point. So anyone who wants to kind of look at our demos can reach out to us and, schedule a demo meeting. So we would, be more than glad to, walk you through some of the top use cases our firm is configuring for both the RIA market as well as for the broker dealer wirehouses. And also there are a lot of, customers who are excited to talk about CogniCor. So you can also reach out to some of your peers who have implemented CogniCor, and they can narrate some of their experiences of working with CogniCor.
And that website, CogniCor.com, CogniCor.com.
That's right.
Sindhu, thank you so much for being on the program. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Hey, it's Craig again. And here are my top 3 takeaways from this episode. Number 1, Sindhu disagreed with my prediction that a majority of Fortune 500 companies will soon be building their own in-house LLMs, because, in her opinion, it's still too difficult to train them enough and test them properly to validate that they have reached an acceptable level of accuracy, which she defined in the 80 to 90% range. And a lot of infrastructure, AI infrastructure, still needs to be built to support these kind of models out in the field. Number 2, CogniCor is envisioning that one day advisors will be able to speak to their computers, similar to what we can do with Siri, and tell them that they'd like to onboard a new client, and the AI application will be smart enough to do it. There will be an entire package of client servicing activities that are all standardized and automated by AI. And number 3, don't put your corporate proprietary data, or God forbid, your client's PII data in any open LLM, whether it's ChatGPT or Bard or anything else, because that data will be used to train the system and will become a permanent part of its database, and you don't want that to happen. Well, congratulations. You've made it to the end of another episode of the WealthTech Today podcast. Before you go, run to our website quickly, scroll to the bottom of the homepage, and sign up for our newsletter. Once a month, you'll receive an email chock full of wealth management goodness, news, information, updates. You will not be disappointed. Thanks again for listening, and talk to you all again next time.